Hello, my name is Terry McNulty and I am a designated person for child protection in Hamilton Road.
And I am Bella Agnew, also a designated person. We would like to take this opportunity to discuss child protection issues. But firstly, we want to thank you on behalf of the Kirk Session for choosing to work with the children and young people in our church family. Session considers this work to be of vital importance if we as a church family are to fulfil our aim of seeing unbelieving people become faithful followers of the Lord Jesus Christ. The work you all do is greatly valued and appreciated. So Terry, why should leaders have to go through child protection training?
Well, Bella, as a result of government legislation, child protection measures have been introduced into all churches of every denomination and indeed into all types of organisations which work with young people. The aim of these measures is not to frighten or discourage leaders, but rather to protect both them and the young people. Now, Hamilton Road has adopted the Presbyterian Church in Ireland's Child Protection Guidelines, which was approved by the General Assembly and revised in 2011. A copy of this document is available online at www.takingcareguidelines.org, and there is a copy in the coffee bar of the church halls. Now, this film will not cover all you need to know about child protection. You will also have to attend PCI's Foundation Training course. Throughout this film, we will be referring to our policy document and the We Care For You Too leaflet, so it would be helpful to have these to hand and to read them carefully. There is also a child protection notice board in the foyer of the church halls, which has relevant forms and useful information.
So Terry, what is child abuse?
Okay, well, there are four main kinds of abuse: physical, neglect, emotional and sexual abuse. Helpful definitions of these are detailed on the back page of our policy leaflet. Bullying can also be seen as child abuse and should never be tolerated within any organisation. It can take many different forms like name calling, teasing, cyberbullying. It can often be physical, where victims are pushed, punched, kicked or hit. It can be young people continually being left out or not picked for games. Leaders should not ignore the situation if they perceive bullying to be happening. They may need to speak to the young people involved and or the parents, and if this does not resolve the situation, speak to us, the designated persons, for guidance.
So Terry, is child protection in our church only about reporting child abuse?
No, not at all. If we are to take the protection of children and young people seriously, we must also consider issues of general safety in our organisations. There's a useful checklist in the We Care For You Too leaflet and on the child protection notice board in the halls. We would encourage you to read that carefully and adhere to its guidance.
Terry, what should a leader do if an allegation of abuse is made?
Okay, well, if you find yourself in this situation, regardless of who the alleged abuser is, there is one thing that you must not do, and that is you must not do nothing. It is important that you take what the child says seriously and immediately report to the leader in charge of the organisation, who will in turn immediately report to myself or to you, Bella. If the leader in charge of your organisation is the subject of the allegation, you should contact me via the church office on 91473 213 or Bella directly on 271 828. You should then record in writing what was said by the child, as well as noting the date, time and name of the individual to whom you have reported this matter. Further advice on what to do if such a situation were ever to arise is given in the section Concerned About a Child of the We Care For You Too leaflet. Our contact numbers and relevant forms for reporting or recording incidents are available from the Child Protection Notice Board in the church halls. Remember, and this is so important, doing nothing is not an option.
Terry, what should a leader do if he suspects a child is being abused, even if the child has said nothing?
Well, again, the guiding principle is that doing nothing is not an option. And I emphasize that. It's not an option. Remember, your responsibility is to report any concern you have about a child, alleged or suspected, and to ensure this concern is taken seriously. It is important that you follow the same guidelines as if an allegation of abuse was made. That is, discuss your concerns with the organisational leader or with ourselves and record in writing what was said.
What if a child or young person asks a leader to keep a secret? What do you do then?
Okay, well, HRPC's confidentiality statement is that all organisational leaders must respect a child, young person's confidentiality and not disclose information about them to others. However, there's a big however, there are some situations where confidentiality needs to be broken. Specifically, if you're concerned that a child is in danger either from him or herself or from someone else, or you suspect that an offence may have been committed. Never promise a child or young person that you will keep secret information that they disclose to you.
Terry, what should a leader do if a child wants to talk to a leader privately?
The guidelines say, if possible, ensure that you are not left alone with a child for long periods. If a child wishes to talk confidentially with you, at least ensure another leader or helper knows where you are and whom you are with. If possible, try to remain visible to the other leaders or helpers. Now, this doesn't prevent you from talking to a child alone, but you should think carefully about what degree of privacy you actually do need.
So, we'll talk a bit about organisation games. What about organisation games and activities? How involved should a leader be in those?
Well, coming back to the guidelines again, the guidelines state leaders and other staff should never engage in rough, physical or sexually provocative games, including horseplay, or allow inappropriate touching. Again, this doesn't prevent leaders from taking part in activities, but it asks you to consider the risks and implications of taking part and to make your decision accordingly. It is not enough that you acted out of a good and pure motives and with a clear conscience. Remember that someone else may misinterpret your actions, no matter how well intentioned.
So, should a leader take younger children to the toilet?
Well, if you have to take a young child to the toilet, have another leader present, and as the guidelines state, never do things of a personal nature for children that they can do for themselves. If you don't need to do it, don't do it. However, the guidelines do recognise it may sometimes be necessary for leaders to do things of a personal nature for children, particularly if they are very young or have disabilities. Except in an emergency, these tasks should be carried out only with the consent of parents. In such situations, leaders need to be sensitive to the child and undertake personal care with the utmost discretion. They should also inform the parents fully at the earliest opportunity.
What would you do if a child has an accident or is hurt during an organisation?
Okay, well, if possible, try to use a trained first aider. There is a first aid kit located in the kitchen and the halls. Make immediate contact with the parent or carer when necessary. All organisations should have an accident book or form on the premises during their organisational activities. All accidents should be recorded. Accident forms are available from the Child Protection Notice Board. A copy of the form should also be sent to the church office.
Terry, there are children within our church and our organisations who have special needs. How do we ensure that these children's needs are catered for?
Okay, well, organisations have a duty to be inclusive and to provide opportunities for children and young people of all abilities, regardless of any medical condition or disability. To fulfill this, it may be necessary to speak to parents about how best to meet the child's needs. If staffing allows, the child may benefit from a one-to-one relationship with a leader. It is also important to try to make sure that all children can participate in the activities that you have organised for most, if not all, of the time. The best advice is to use your common sense and always seek to be inclusive.
Another area where judgment needs to be exercised concerns teasing and banter. What are the guidelines for this, Terry?
In the section on control and discipline of the We Care For You Too leaflet, it states, "Never humiliate a child or young person or belittle them in front of others." I mean, what some people may consider as banter and harmless fun may be perceived by young people as bullying. Leaders need to exercise caution in how they speak to the young people.
A lot of our organisations take children on outings. So what is the policy with regards to transport?
If you're transporting children or young people in cars or minibuses, make sure that you have adequate passenger liability cover. Do not overcrowd the vehicle. In other words, there must only be one person, whether it be a child or adult, per seat belt. I cannot emphasise this point enough. If the vehicle is overcrowded, the insurance cover will immediately be invalidated. Please ensure that seat belts are worn at all times, and children under 4 feet 5 inches tall or less than 12 years old use a booster seat supplied by their parents. Also, avoid taking children or young people alone in a car on journeys, however short. Try to ensure that another leader or other children or young people are with you. If a situation occurs that you have to transport a child alone, ensure that other leaders know what is happening and that the child is in the rear seats. This will make the situation as safe as possible both for the leader and for that young person. It is very important that our drivers are not used to transport young people to any weekends away or outings held by the organisation. Make sure there is supervision in minibuses and coaches.
So the internet and mobile phones play a big role in young people's lives today. We all know that. So what are the guidelines for leaders here, Terry? Okay,
well, HRPC have chosen not to adopt PCI's guidelines with regard to internet use. So please adhere to the guidelines in our policy leaflet. And I quote, "Leaders, helpers of all organisations should under no circumstances engage in communication with young people via internet chat rooms such as Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, Snapchat, and so on and so on. We would like to stress that no leader, helper of any organisation should be communicating with children or young people via the internet. This is for your own protection, so that you do not get drawn into conversations, etc., that are inappropriate or could lead to potential accusations." HRPC has issued the following guidelines with regard to text messages and emails. Firstly, children's organisations. So in respect of children's organisations, leaders, helpers in those organisations should not communicate with children via text messages, phone calls, or emails. Contact with those children must be made via the parents in a letter or via the phone. Now, with regards to youth organisations, whilst we recognise that mobile phones and emails are a modern and useful form of communicating with young people, HRPC would stress that leaders and helpers in youth organisations should use text messages, phone calls or email with extreme caution. And I'm emphasising that point. Sometimes messages, as we all know, can be open to misinterpretation. Please adhere to the following points. First of all, texting or emailing should only be used in relation to the organisation's programme or to encourage young people in their faith, or if they haven't been to the organisation for a while. And secondly, all emails to young people must be copied to another leader. The leader in charge will allocate leader responsibility. And third, Leaders must be accountable to another leader or the leader in charge when texting young people. Any texts that raise concern should be saved and passed on to the leader in charge. And where possible, use group rather than individual texting. And with regards to the language used, please use clear, unambiguous language to reduce the risk of misinterpretation. Avoid using abbreviations, like the favourite one, LOL, which could mean laugh out loud or lots of love and other abbreviations like that.
So we have talked about a lot tonight, Terry, but is there any final advice you would want to give?
Yeah, there is. And this is perhaps the most important guideline. It's use your common sense. We all know situations can arise where either the guidelines don't cover the situation or you have to temporarily disregard the advice given. That happens in all walks of life. So basically, you have to fall back on using your common sense. And I can't emphasize that enough, Bella. Also, we mustn't get so concerned about allegations being made against us that we become afraid to do anything with the children or young people. We need to achieve that balance between protecting ourselves as leaders and taking full advantage of the opportunities to get involved with the young people in our charge. And that is the real aim of these guidelines after all. They seek to help frame and focus your thinking and decision making so that you are effective leaders while minimizing the risk of allegations being made against you. So really, in conclusion, thank you for your attention, and thank you once again for the work that you do in our children and youth organisations.